Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. Manchester United come away with a point, but is it a lucky point on our last outing at Goodison Park? At some points in that game, it looked like it was going to be an absolute thrashing, but Bruno Fernandez sparked a comeback for Manchester United. Could have got more in the end, but also could have been coming away with nothing with that controversial penalty decision. I am joined with Kev and Tull. Starting off straight away, guys, I feel like there's a lot of mixed opinions after the game today. I think there's a lot of people disagreeing with each other. And do you think that kind of sums up the game because it was so different between the first half and the second half?
I think you'd have to split it up more into 70 minutes and 20 minutes, to be honest, because even for that first 25 minutes of the second half, until them subs came on, we were crap. In fact, we were probably worse in the first bit of the second half than we were in the first half. We were that bad. We barely had a kick of the ball.
We're looking at a different fan forum, aren't we? I mean, at 2-0 down, it was...
it could have been a lot more. It could have been a lot more miserable, though, couldn't it? Yeah. It's a big point. In the big picture of where we are right now, it's a massive point, and we should take it. You know what I mean? We're not going to sit here and complain at the point. We'll take it because we need it. However, the performance, if we're going to play like that for 70 minutes of most games, we're probably not going to walk away with a point every time. Do you know what I mean?
It's not sustainable, is it?
I feel like we say it every week that feels like the worst 45 minutes of football I've seen Manchester United play. And that first half really did seem like the worst 45 minutes of football you see Manchester United play. I mean, Everton just ran us riot. We looked like we had nothing going forward. So many individual errors. The players' body language didn't look like he was up to it. I mean, Kev, it did take that Bruno Fernandez free kick, and it was a very well taken free kick. Ricky, who always complains about his free kicks, even messaged me saying, very good free kick, he's got to get it right at some point. And then you saw a shift at Manchester United. You've seen the energy levels go up, you've seen the intensity go up. Ruben Amorim made some substitutions that changed the game, and all of a sudden, United look like they're on the front foot. But is that frustrating to you? That's what it takes? Why can't we start games with that same intensity?
Exactly. Honestly, if I had the answer to that, I'm sure I listened to Amorim after the game and what he had to say. I think the reporter asked him a similar kind of question, and he said, if I knew this, I would address the problem. It is, and I don't want it to come across as, oh, look at this lot being negative again. Anybody that was subjected and watched that game today with their own eyes will know. If that was a game of Monopoly, we've used our get out of jail free card, big time. If you're an Everton fan, you'd be absolutely livid. You'd be looking at that and scratching your head. How have we, drawn this game? I still don't know how we've managed to do it. It isn't sustainable. If you're playing, let's say, Liverpool, for instance, we'd have been dead and buried by half-time, and that's no disrespect to Everton, but you want to start on the front foot. We knew it was going to be a lively atmosphere. It's the last game at Goodison Park for United against Everton as a fixture. We knew they were going to come out the traps, the crowd behind them, but the concern is, why is it taking 70 minutes before United sort of clicked in and looked interested? If we ended the game on 70 minutes and we look back at that game, it was embarrassing. And I mean embarrassing because players aren't running. We're back at that phase where they don't look interested, there's no passion.
At 2-0, they'd accepted defeat,
they're not running. And Everton, in stark contrast, were everything we weren't. The bare minimum you're going to ask of them players is to go out, show a bit of passion and run. That's the bare minimum. Yet, for some reason, these players, it's almost infectious. How many, and these are basic passes. Talk about tactics, whatever you want. How many times, the lit back pass to Onana goes out for a corner. It's a catalogue of errors, and both their goals were 5 times we could have cleared the ball. Was it for the first goal? Yeah. Or the second?
First one.
Oh, honestly, it's Laurel and Hardy. It's like you look at it and go, what is going on, man? I honestly can't put my finger on it.
I had multiple people messaging me saying Sunday League would defend better than what Manchester United did today in the instances of them 2 goals. Maguire and Onana were a calamity on that second one. You'd think, with the amount of pressure that Manchester United are under and the need to win games, the focus would be lasered. And it's no mistakes today, lads. Everything is full throttle. But what got me, Tull, is, and we'll get into performances in a second, we've got some comments already coming in, get your super chats in, anything you want to address, get them in. This is for opinion, we all express all of our opinions, and it can be divisive. It can be divisive is the wrong word I would use. It can be different. Everyone can have a different opinion. Get your thoughts in, as long as we talk about it in a constructive way and with respect to each other. But what gets me is the first thing I hear is when I've put TNT Sports on before I'm about to watch the game, and Bruno Fernandez and Duncan Ferguson are talking about how they feel like Manchester United have already been beaten. The warm-up seems lacklustre. The body language isn't right. It's very quiet. The players look moody. And I am lucky enough that I've been in and around quite a lot of Manchester United games. And it's one thing I thought, even under Ten Hag, before Ruben Amorim, we always look so bad in the warm-ups. Like, we always look so poor, it always looks half-arsed. Like, it doesn't look like a team that's going into war, let's put it that way. Nowhere near. And there's a certain few that look like they're focused and ready to go, but a lot of the time it just don't look interested. So that run me up the wrong way before I started watching the game. Then I watched the game, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, and feel free to disagree with me here, were we organised?
No.
Was there any?
Total opposite.
Did it feel like there was any hunger there?
Absolutely not.
Until that goal, no. The intensity, where was that? Everton were had way more intensity than us. Leadership, did it feel like there was much leadership on the pitch? There's consistently players giving balls away in stupid areas, simple 5-yard passes, putting us under massive pressure, and then players around them that are having to bust a gut to try and defend it. When the ball goes out of play, no, if that's me, I'm like, get that pass right next time. I'm telling the players around me. It just feels like there's no one there to tell each other, we've got to get this right. And then the technical levels as well, just the absolute basics of being able to pass the football. And they're just not there, and it's frustrating because, Tull, you said, we know this set of players aren't good enough. We know there's quite a fair few that are just pretty poor. But surely they're better than where we're at. Is there an argument for that?
They're bad players, they're not relegation players. Like, the fact that word relegation's even getting mentioned around this club is just a joke. It's the same set of players plus another £200 million players that won an FA Cup. These guys are actually the FA Cup champions right now. They hold the FA Cup. They're not that bad. Like, I'm to tell you, they're not that bad. I'm not saying they're good, because they're definitely not good. I don't think they're a top half Premier League side, to be honest, when you look at the competition in the league right now. But we've got to get more out of them. And, the more I'm looking at it, I don't even think it's a tactics thing. I just think it's a general attitude and feeling around the club. And, that was one thing I always thought, when Solskjaer came in and kind of took over as the interim, the one thing he kind of focused on was just improving the atmosphere and the feeling around the players. These players right now need that more than anything, more than tactics or training. They need to look like they want to be there, for one. Do you know what I mean? That whole thing about misplacing passes and stuff like that, it's not because these players can't make those passes. Because they don't want to be there. Like, they could not care less about being there today. I mean, most of them probably woke up this morning, like 6 hours before the game. I doubt any of them sprung out of bed thinking, come on, we'll do these today. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. No one really seems up for it. And we need leaders as well. It's not all on the manager to change that atmosphere. Players have got to step up as well. Obviously, that's going to be a recruitment thing. We've got to bring more characters into that squad. There's got to be more people who are going to step up and talk. I said it last week last week, it was a few days ago, and you said it again today, Beth. When people are making mistakes, particularly like Bruno, for example, nobody calls him out. Nobody says, switch on here. Nobody seems to be having a go. It's like a general acceptance now of the low standards. It's almost like everybody's accepted that the standards are low, and nobody really wants to make an effort to pull the club out of the mess that it's in. I think they're going to have to change something, though, in these next few weeks, whether it's... I think there's a general... Every single game at the moment we get overrun, and I don't think we're good enough to play 2 men in the middle. I think we should maybe even be playing 4 men in the middle with how much we get overrun. And something that you said today as well, Kev, which interests me. We've gone to playing a back three and started conceding double the amount of goals. Like, when does that ever happen? You put an extra defender in there. It doesn't take, you know what I mean, that's a simple thing. What do you expect if you chuck an extra defender on your starting 11? You expect to concede less, aren't you? We actually concede more now with the extra defender in there.
There is a theory, isn't there, that these players are actually trying, but they're just not good enough. But I didn't see that today.
No, that's not.
If they were, and you're looking and thinking, right, this system, you know, they can't get their heads around it. The God's honest truth of it is, I just simply don't think they're good enough. I've seen enough today, and I've seen enough in the past with previous managers, with this manager now, that these are basic errors. And the worrying thing is it spreads like wildfire in our team. How many times did I say, nobody looks to take any control? Yes, Bruno, when he scores that goal today, there's an argument that he was the one leader that sort of spearheaded us, and we cracked on to, you know, take a point somehow. But the worrying thing is that one bad pass in the first 5 minutes, and then nobody looks interested, nobody wants the ball, nobody's demanding it. It's when they've got it, it's like a hot potato. It's like, what are you giving it me for? Have it back. I don't want it. And nobody takes control, so you have no patterns of play. You had no foothold in that game at all whatsoever in the first half, and it is a major concern. I mean, a penny for Amarim's thoughts. I know there's that many shots of him on the sideline today, but he's sunken down on the floor. You know, you can tell he's looking at the ground.
Looking into the abyss, like, what am I doing?
He must be thinking, what is going on? Because you're not telling me that they've worked all week and the game plan today was to go out and, you know, execute that today, because he'll be pulling his hair out.
I agree with you in the sense that I think this system, like we were speaking before the show, and welcome everybody over from Goldbridge's Final Score. Get your thoughts in the chat. I'm seeing a lot of justice for Delit in there. I'm assuming that's what the message has been sent over. We will discuss that because I think we have different opinions on that matter. We were watching that Final Score before we came onto the forum, and we had some different opinions, which is always good to kind of discuss. But I agree with you, Kev, on that front, and we were talking about it off air before we went live. This system exposes how basic these players are. To play in this system, you need to have...
It's technical ability. That's what it comes down to. If you cannot play that role,
you need to be physically strong. You need to have energy levels. You need to have fitness levels, and it exposes our team for being very basic players. And you can cover that up in basic systems. You can cover that up playing counter-attack football. You can't cover it up in a system where you are trying to dominate with what Ruben Amarim's doing, and the players, and the majority of them are not suited to it whatsoever.
Apart from Bruno and Dorgu today, if you talk about intensity levels, them two had it, and the rest, it was embarrassing. Really, really embarrassing to think that a team like this, how can you not be up for a game like that? You know, you've got a player like Rio Ferdinand talking after the game, you know, and you can tell that even for him as a United fan, an ex-player of the club looking at that, it's embarrassing. You know, I know we can look back at the past, we're living off the fumes of the past, whatever, but there was standards at Man United, and everything's just been ripped out of it at this moment in time. Honestly, I watch it to think how far we've fallen. What, 15th place in the Premier League? You know, we're easily on course for our worst ever kind of Premier League finish. Easily, and we thoroughly deserve it because we're that bad.
Well, the bare minimum you expect is intensity and effort from minute one, and we weren't even getting that. I mean, also, Kev, just to touch on what you said about the players don't really want the football, and it's like, you have it. Like, we don't look comfortable moving a football around the pitch, which is really worrying. I thought this was interesting. Okay, Manchester United players look to give the ball to Dorgu a lot. The 20-year-old in his third game for the club had 89 touches. Only Bruno Fernandez had more touches.
89 touches is a lot of touches.
Only Bruno had more, and he had 109. Dorgu's strength when carrying the ball was telling. He won a free kick, which led to that first goal. But he was a constant outlet down that left-hand side, carried the ball well, made himself available, looked confident on the football, looked like he could take it in tight spaces, turn with it. Dorgu was a level above everybody else, and I said it in the game, no disrespect to him. He's 20 years old, we've bought him in from Lecce, he was in a relegation battle in Serie A. He shouldn't be our best player straight away coming into the team, but he is. And that shows the level of what these other players are at. Is it a coincidence that the Ruben Amarim's only signing so far is outshining everybody else?
It's a great point, a really, really good point. I don't understand whether that's a mentality thing. Why would more senior players in that team, and it was evident in the first half, the amount of joy that he had down that left-hand side. I know we didn't get much joy, but Dalot, in stark contrast on the other side, what was the point of like playing it? Everything went down that left-hand side. Now, was it a tactic? Possibly so, because he was the one player with Bruno that looked like he could run and run all game. Apart from that, the rest of them are absolutely blowing on empty. And I don't understand why, because it's not like, you know, the system like we've seen, let's say we played 3 or 4 really intense games where you think, God, this lot are giving it their all and they're just blowing, you know, slightly towards the season, because they've not been doing it. You know, United's consistency this season has been their inconsistency. That's players, the team. It's like I say, it's totally infectious in the way that United play, because once one person like misplaces a pass in them early minutes, it just sets the tone for the whole team.
Absolutely. I mean, more a little bit on Dorgu, and we'll get some super chats in a second. Constant threat down that left-hand side, left-footing crosses coming into the box. I mean, he was showing Dalot up, in my opinion, for what Dalot should be doing as a wing-back. Tull, do you reckon it's because he's been someone who's specifically been scouted for Amorim's system, so he suits the way he wants to play, and hopefully his future signings will come in and level up this team as well? Or do you think it's just simply the fact, like we've seen before, he's not been poisoned by Manchester United yet?
Yeah, I'm more leaning towards the second option, and more so, I like Dorgu, but I also think you could probably took the left back from every Premier League side and he'd have improved us, to be honest. I think you could have took absolutely anybody in this league. You could have took Aït-Nouri, who's 17th below us, and he would have improved us. I just think the bar's that low. Dalot, I cannot wrap my head around the fall off he has had in the last year.
It's crazy, isn't it?
He looked brilliant at one point.
Under Ten Hag, I remember saying on here, he was easily the most improved player. You know, under Ten Hag.
He was player of the year for me.
But now, under Amorim, he's gone totally... If we had another Dorgu, a similar kind of player to Dorgu, the job that he did today on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, again, little tweaks, it makes the team look totally different. You've got somebody that can defend and get forward.
It falls in the category to me of a player that doesn't suit the system. And this system, people would say it's niche. It just requires technically very good players. And Dalot, to be fair, on the ball, he's half decent, but it's his... I don't want to be disrespectful. His intelligence when it comes to his positioning isn't good.
Yeah, he switches
and
off.
You need football intelligence to play this system. I don't think Dalot has the highest football intelligence. I think this system requires football intelligence, it requires a very good technical ability, and it requires physical players with a high amount of energy and fitness. Now, Dalot has good energy levels, he is physically fit, he's decent on the ball, but he's just not got that football intelligence side, which I think lets him down. And I think a lot of players fall into that category of they just don't suit the system. I know Bruno Fernandez was given man of the match today, and we'll talk about him. Don't think he necessarily suits the system. You know, Garnacho, who was our biggest, one of our biggest talents coming out of the academy, and a lot of people say changed the game today, which he did, but really, does he really suit this system? You know, certain players that we've loved, you know, in previous years, do they suit the system? There's an argument, does Mainoo suit the system? Can he adapt to one of them number 10 roles? Is he in the midfield? I think Mainoo can get there, but I think Mainoo's got the technical ability, we know that, and he's got the football intelligence. Has he got the physical side to fit into this system? There's a lot of players in this team where it's like, in this squad, are you going to be able to fit the Ruben Amorim system? And I think that's what Dalot falls into. I don't think he's suddenly like fell off as a player. I just think he suited the way Ten Hag wanted to play, and he doesn't suit this way.
The wing-back role is so vital to this system. And like you say, I think that's definitely a tactic today. It's almost whether Amorim said that everything goes down the left-hand side. But I also think it's sad at the same time that we've played with kind of square pegs in round holes, haven't we, on the left and the right. We've had a right footer on the left, and for the first time today in a long time, we were sat there watching the game today. Dorgu put a cross in early on in the game, and we all went, did he just cross the ball?
Twice in like 2 minutes.
We're in that much disability because you're not used to it. We're so used to a player playing on the opposite side and cutting back, and then the move breaks down. But I know it was into Pickford's hands. Pickford caught the ball, but there was a few instances where he got into an area where he whipped it in with his left foot, and I thought little tweaks like that are absolutely huge. That's why I'm saying if on the right-hand side, if you had somebody with the intensity that Dorgu showed today, being able to get up and back and defend, you know, for 6 minutes, it will make a huge difference to the system.
Absolutely. We've got Lewis Albaran saying Dorgu fits Amorim's system. It is not a coincidence. He looks like our best player on the pitch. He's an ambitious player with a personal coach who helps him with his overall game. We also have Rohan Badwar saying the players look nervous and anxious on the pitch. Simple as Dorgu doesn't because he's new. It's a mental thing. I think these players are better than that. TN Live says Ashley Young is a synchronised swimmer. Players sadly don't have a go at each other as they know they are just as crap, which doesn't stop them. Hambakaya says Garnacho was a terrible sub. You could see in his mind he was only set on shooting the moment he came on the pitch. It ruined the fluidity of our attack on the left-hand side. Come the end of the season, sell.
That is a hot take, that, man. That is hotter than the sun.
I disagree with it. I think when he first came on, Dorgu was nullified for a bit, but once they worked it out, I actually really liked the fact they kept interchanging. I think it worked really well and it gave us an injection of pace and unpredictability down that left-hand side.
I thought Garnacho, I think he changed the game. I think it's safe. We didn't have much up until that time when he come on, but he certainly has an impact. He certainly had an impact, and you could tell the way Everton at that stage they controlled the game. You know, we weren't in it as a contest, but to that extent, when Garnacho come on, it almost gave them something to think about. He was direct. Yeah, he's not the finished article, but we pinned them back then. You know, there was he was testament to the way that United got back into this game without a shadow of a doubt.
I think I was probably telling about Garnacho is his key moments today probably came playing on the counter-attack. It probably came when Everton had a corner or whatever, and we got the ball up, and it came to Garnacho and he can run. And he held the ball pretty well, and there was times where he gave the ball to Zirkzee towards the end. There was other instances throughout the game, but again, I don't necessarily think he suits the system because, look, we obviously don't want to play counter-attacking football. That's not what Amorim's coming to do. But as a super sub, it works, doesn't it? There is use out of him, but is he going to want to sit on the bench at United? He's probably not going to want to do that. So
that's where he's had his better performances, hasn't he? We mentioned it in Countdown to Kick-Off, Garnacho. Both of us said we wouldn't start him today, but you've got no issue with him coming off the bench.
But it's another one of, like Beth saying, players who don't fit the system. He doesn't really fit, does he, anywhere?
He fits as a super sub.
Yeah, exactly.
It absolutely gives you that impact off the bench.
If you're chasing a game.
This is the thing to me, right? If we would have started Garnacho today, he wouldn't have had the impact he did from the start. He just wouldn't have. And then you look into your bench and you've not got that injection of pace to bring on. You know, you've not got that spark to bring on that's going to be able to carry the ball when he's got space, when the game opens up. So he absolutely fits that super sub role.
If you look in contrast to last Sunday, when you look at the bench we had, and option-wise, when you've got Victor Lindelof as your most senior player, the bench today, at least you looked at it and you thought, we probably knew that we were going to have difficult stages today at Goodison Park, but you knew that if there come a time, we had Garnacho, Yoro, Chido, whoever it was going to be, at least somebody that's going to make a difference. Whereas last week, you know, the inexperience on the bench, it was always going to be harsh to try and make some kind of change to that game. But I certainly wouldn't agree with that super chat. I think Garnacho it changed the game today.
We want to talk about Bruno. We've got Hambakaya saying people can say what they want about Zirkzee, but when you pass to him, the ball sticks. Him and Ahmad are the only attackers I would keep outside of Bruno. Jeremiah says it wasn't a penalty, but the ball Bruno played that led up to it was ridiculous. Even under 10s know not to play the ball in the middle when regaining possession. And Andreas Goose says, how can feeling get better with all the things going on at the club? We need a better captain and another new 15 players and new owners. So I want to get into this comment because we need to get into it. I mean, how are we already 20 minutes in? There's so much to talk about. 25 minutes in even. But Mark sent over justice for De Ligt. We'd seen on the player ratings, De Ligt got a 5.5 and Bruno got a 5, if I'm thinking about that right. There was a lot of discussion whether Bruno should have got man of the match. But
is that Mark's ratings or the
I think
community's?
Bruno. I think they gave Bruno a 7. I think the community gave Bruno a 7.
I don't think so.
I don't think they did.
I don't think so. I mean, we can get it up, but there was we can think. I don't know what it was in that sense, but I'm pretty sure it was a 5. I think Mark gave De Ligt a 5.5 and Bruno a 5.
That's right. Yeah.
So let's discuss that, because the justice for De Ligt was sent over. Now, I have said De Ligt has been a good signing. I think he's been underrated by the media, and I do think he has had some quality games. However, today, that first 45 minutes was probably one of the worst 45 minutes I've ever seen from De Ligt in my life.
Easily.
He was terrible.
And that's what I'm talking about, that shakiness. You know, you could tell early on, and then that breeds, because if there's one thing that Harry Maguire needs, if he's going to play in a back three, it's 2 other players that are quite solid and are able to do like his running for him. Because I've always said that the 3 sort of central defenders that we play mask each other's sort of imperfections, you know, and their weaknesses. So, you know, if Martinez plays, he's kind of shorter than a De Ligt or a Maguire. The same, you know, he's quicker than them. So they kind of cover each other's sort of mistakes quite well and weaknesses. But today, easily his worst 45 minutes for De Ligt, you know, and that breeds into then Harry Maguire, who that was one of his worst games that I've seen for United. I just go back to this thing of when one player's off in that position, and this is where, you know, Harry Maguire was the club captain of United, you know, let's stand up, you know, who were the leaders of De Ligt as well, you know, he's captained Ajax at 18 or whatever, you know, and you do look at these as being the more senior players in the team, so they need to kind of stand up and be counted, whereas today, I don't know. We can't just put it down to one bad game. I'd love to be here and go, you know, it was just a bad day at the office, but there's a reoccurring sort of theme here that every single week this is happening. This
is why it was justice for De Ligt, and it was because in the MEN, De Ligt got given a 2, but Maguire got given a 4.
Right, yeah.
And I get that, because for me, they both would have got the same score, because I thought they were both as bad as each other.
I'd actually give Maguire worse.
Would you?
I'd probably give De Ligt a 2 and Maguire a 1.
Yeah, maybe, to be fair, because they were. Do you know what it is? I don't think they complement each other. I just don't think they complement each other. And De Ligt, like, it's mad to think, because, you know, he's a multiple league winner. He was one of the best defensive talents in the world at one point. You know, he's got pedigree.
It depends who the other one is that's in with them, and if you get that blend right between the 3, but
De Ligt can. You can see he can be a very good defender. He had a bad day at the office today, but I just don't think him and Maguire complement each other, because I don't think they're both not great at defending a lot of space and covering a lot of space across the pitch, and that's what we struggled to do today. But I get the justice for De Ligt comment now, because Maguire was just Maguire of old. After all that good work he put in, wow, today he was poor.
And in fairness to him, he has been playing well. You know, by his standards.
You've got to play well every game for United, don't you?
That one today was shocking. He looked like he'd had a bucket of cement for his breakfast, mate. He could barely move. It was insane.
A bucket of cement.
Yeah, he couldn't jump, he couldn't move. He was absolutely useless today. One of the worst performances I've ever seen from United.
He definitely looked like somebody who'd been out in the lash last night, but he's... again, I like the point of what you're trying to say is that you should be. You should be up for every single game. You know, you can't... The thing with these players is they kind of dictate and choose when they're going to perform. You know, and we were saying it off air, weren't we? You know, how did we win the FA Cup final at that stage? You know, with these players, how have they turned up at Anfield this season? Got a 2-2 draw. The FA Cup, we go down to 10 men, and we go through on penalties, but we still shown that passion, hunger, that fight. And they can switch it on. The Etihad, yes, it was a great time to play City at that time, but we still went there and went toe-to-toe. Large periods of the game, we were in it, passages of play. But today, and just most recently, like last Sunday against Tottenham, we never have a foothold in the game, do we? You know, you cannot wait until the 70th minute before you decide to start playing. Better teams, and we've got a massive Europa League game coming up, better teams will absolutely punish us. You know, if we play like that against Sociedad...
Well, they do.
Yeah,
they do punish us.
But what I mean is,
we lose most games for 15th in the Prem.
We play like that in the first leg against Sociedad, we're out.
Yeah.
There'll be no point playing the second leg. You know, a better team will punish us even more.
Yeah, I mean, we are. I've said it, and people don't like to hear it. We are relegation fodder. Like, we genuinely are. When you look at Manchester United's record, especially as of late as well, you know, Southampton played us off the park. If it wasn't for an Ahmad hat-trick, who we don't have anymore, and he was like individual brilliance. I think it was a 12-minute hat-trick. They would have beat us at Old Trafford. You know, we only managed to get past Leicester with a last-minute offside winner. Ipswich, we drew 2 in November, and we were the inferior side. Like, there's a reason why we are where we are. I mean, just to bring in, let's talk about Bruno, because he's been a controversial one as well. I mean, my stance on Bruno Fernandez was, I thought he was super, super frustrating. Gave the ball away way too much in dangerous positions. Gave the ball away cheaply for the first goal. We had multiple chances to clear it off that corner, and it went for a corner because Bruno gave it away, and then we had multiple chances to clear it, and there was quite a bit of play played after it, but it started that move that put us in danger. But then again, it's like, it just feels like it's always him that has to kind of step up. You know, the free kick, a moment of brilliance. And I feel like after the free kick, he did take the game by the scruff of its neck and was the player that was driving United forward. Do other people need to step up as well? Or what are the feelings on Bruno right now? Is it worth what you basically, because with Bruno, you get some bad. Like, he gives the ball away cheaply, he's frustrating, sometimes he abandons his position. Does the good that he provides outweigh that, is what I'm trying to say, because he does also provide.
You had after the game, didn't you? I was listening. You got like an ex-Everton legend in Duncan Ferguson, who I totally respect anyway. I thought he spoke a lot of sense before the game. He spoke a lot of sense after the game. You got Rio Ferdinand with him, and them two are basically alluding to the fact that Bruno Fernandez is easily United's best player. That's what they said, and basically United would not have got a point today without him. And with better players around him, Bruno Fernandez would be better. You know, Duncan Ferguson said that, and that's, you know, from an Everton kind of perspective looking in. And I have to agree. I know, obviously, if Ricky was here now, he'd be pulling his hair out, and that is. I do think that there is, sometimes you look at him, he's trying to do too much, but if you had maybe a better technician in that number 10 role, if the midfield's going to be tweaked, again, it's just making these little changes, but Bruno's Bruno, isn't it? What I can't defend today is, like you say, he's giving the ball away cheaply in silly situations. What
I would say is David Moyes also, who's very experienced manager in the game, said that Bruno changed it in the second half, which he did, to be fair. And no player is perfect. You know, you've got to take the good with the bad. You've got to see if the benefits outweigh the mistakes that hurt the team. I did tweet, I do wonder what Bruno Fernandez level would be in a functioning team. He's never been in a properly functioning team at United. And there was a comment that got replied to that, and somebody said, they say that he's the reason that the team can't function, but in reality, in an organised team, his mistakes don't hurt you and his creativity and goals benefit the team. What are your thoughts on that, Tull?
I think the best we ever seen Bruno was when we were a counter-attacking side. It's almost like Bruno, the less time he has on the ball, the more productive he is. It almost feels like the thing with Bruno is he's just as susceptible as all these other players who, like you said, Kev, when it's contagious, when something goes wrong, then they all start to, you know, all of the performance levels decrease. Bruno is just as susceptible to that. When everyone, when it's going tits up, Bruno's shocking, isn't he? Sometimes looks like the worst one. I don't think he fits this system, which it's a shame. The only time he's ever really looked in place for me was when we were doing that counter-attack system. Like I said, when he's got all that time on the ball, it's almost like he how do I say it? He makes the game a bit too confusing. Yeah, he could keep the game a lot more simple, and I think he'd have a lot more.
Overcomplicates things.
Yeah, which it is mad, because sometimes you see moments of brilliance by complicating the game. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes you go, wow, no one else would have done that. But there's times where you are pulling your hair out. I mean, let's not be daft here. For 70 minutes of that game, we were raging at Bruno. He was playing shocking. And that free kick, it's the first free kick he scored in a long, long time. What a time to score it. However, you know, if that free kick doesn't go in, I don't think anyone would have picked the performance levels up off the back of it. You know,
it's testament to him what he did today, because when you think that was a game-changing moment, and what other player on the pitch? Yeah, you rightly say he didn't play well for 70 minutes or whatever, but to score the free kick, execute it, absolutely fantastic finish again. You know, what other player in that team is kind of capable of stepping up? The celebration after it was, you know, you could sense from him, you know, as the captain of the team, it was like, come on, we can get something out of this. And I'm sure even as fans, we were kind of sat there thinking, you know, how have we even got back into this at 2-1? But to have that belief and then drive the team on, like I say, it was only really Dorgu and Fernandez that had them like kind of levels. And at least, for all the hate that Bruno gets, I mean, at least he looks like he gives a shit. You know, he'll speak to the fans, won't he? You know, after the game, he'll come out in front of the cameras and that, where there's other people.
It's upsetting, isn't it? That should be the bare minimum, and you know, that really should be every single player. That's what we used to have. That's where it came from, and it comes from above that. It comes from the manager. It comes from the staff. You know, it does start from the top.
Do you think the standards need to be raised?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we banged on for ages about how we won't, like United, we won't accept lower standards. We used to say that all the time years ago, and to be honest, we kind of have accepted lower standards now.
David Arth Young says Bruno doesn't suit the system. Valencia on the beat says if Garner started today, Dorgu wouldn't have had a good game. He can't overlap, and that is my only concern.
I agree with that.
Casa sub was the only thing that changed the game. Chris Rubio says how far would have Amorim gone with Sporting in the UCL? Oriana says we can't be relying on luck to save us. Could have been a pen not given for us when losing on the other day. Kay Ray says justice for De Ligt. It was because he was given 2 in the player ratings. Darren Mulaney says who would you buy for a new number 10? I mean, there's a lot of names that could be put out there. I'd be all over Cunha from Wolves, so that's just me. Lewis Albaran says Dorgu fits Amorim's system. It's not a coincidence. I've done that one. Thank you everyone for your super chats. Pengas92 says whether Bruno suits the system or not, he has no talent around him. It's irrelevant. The captain of Manchester United should be the higher standard than the rest. Standards need to be raised, absolutely. I mean, let's talk about Rasmus Højlund. And you can kind of talk about him by talking about Chido Obi coming off the bench. Got a bit more time today. And this stat's been flying around. Højlund got 0 out of 4 aerial duels in 70 minutes. It took Chido less than 10 minutes to win an aerial duel. His hold-up play looked pretty decent. Didn't get many chances, but was running the channels well. And honestly, all you have to do is do the bare minimum to make an improvement right now, don't you? I mean, what are your thoughts on Højlund, and would you be tempted to start Chido up front next game?
Yeah, he doesn't look like he belongs in a Premier League side, if we're being completely honest.
Is that Højlund you're talking about?
Yeah, Højlund looks completely out of his depth. Like, for me, he's a 1 today. If I'm giving play ratings, Højlund's a 1. We've said it loads. I don't like the argument if he gets no service. I would argue he does his teammates no favours. This system as well, we've basically got one man leading the line, and Højlund is not going to lead the line. Let's have that clear. He's not good enough. He doesn't know where he is half the time. He doesn't position himself well. He doesn't move into space. He must be a nightmare for the 10s to play with. I think Zirkzee looked better when Chido was on the pitch. I think Garnacho actually had an out ball when Chido was on the pitch. Yeah, Chido's touch was a little bit off. Some of the passes he played were a little bit sloppy, and you could tell that he was definitely panicking a little bit.
Nervous.
However, the initial getting into those positions, Højlund doesn't do it whatsoever. I mean, Chido had been on the pitch for 2 minutes and he played a lovely 1-2 with Zirkzee, and I went, he's already done more than Højlund. He's already done more in 2 minutes than Højlund's done in 70 minutes. And even on a personal level for Højlund, I think he'd benefit from having less minutes. I think he needs less minutes to discover a bit of urgency about when he's on the pitch. I mean, he's near enough playing 90 minutes every game. He's played like 22 games in the league or something like that, and we've got 2 goals from him. That is shocking. Like that. To put it in perspective, Man City's goalkeeper has more goal contributions this year than Højlund. That is insane when Højlund's playing every single game. That's ridiculous.
It's not healthy as well from Højlund's perspective. It's a great point that you make there, but you want competition for places, and there is such a thing. I've got no doubt in my mind that a lot of them United players have well in the comfort zone. You know, they're getting paid great money. Some of them probably don't even care whether they're on the bench.
And you've seen it with Højlund today.
But with Højlund now, yeah, you've actually got somebody who, from a motivational point of view, it's like, well, who is going to actually challenge him for his spot, isn't it?
Yeah, he's known for the past how many weeks that he's going to start regardless. And today...
It's not a great mindset, is it?
Yeah, it's not. And do you know what? Today, I'd actually say it was quite disgraceful, to be honest. The way he was not putting effort into 50-50s, not putting effort into challenges, I'd actually say it was a disgrace. I'd put it past a bad performance, and I'd say that's a disgrace. You cannot be playing like that for Man United. You don't deserve to play for Man United if you're doing that.
And I mean, even the second half, the one where he was kind of muscled off the ball near the halfway line. I say muscled off the ball, you know, he dropped. I kind of look at that as moments, and I really, really worry. I would give any player time. Fair enough, you know, I'll wait up. I'll certainly give it season, 2 seasons, whatever. But when you're getting nothing back, and then you've got an 18-year-old kid coming on, like you say, you know, rough around the edges. But the one thing he did was running the channels.
He made himself available.
Yeah. Well, he looked lively. And one thing you need to do as well, it's not all about you as a striker. You know, I'd hate to think that Rasmus behind closed doors is thinking, why am I getting no service? Because you can make your own service. You can drop in, you know, if you're not involved in the play, but also you can stretch the back line by going out left or right. And that's in stark contrast what Chido did today. He's come on, he's made a run out to the left, dragged the central defender out the way, and then the system, these 2 number 10s, it gives them more, you know, room to operate. You've seen Garnacho having a bit of joy. And for that period then, you know, Everton were on the back foot, and it looked like United were, you know, could have possibly even won it at one stage.
That's the worst thing for Højlund for me, to be honest. He doesn't move wide. He just stays still in the box. And then somehow, he's blagging fans into, well, they're not getting the ball to him. He's not moving. He is sluggish, and he is doing nothing. He's doing nothing for his teammates. His teammates must hate playing with him. Like, seriously, they must hate playing with him because he does nothing to help them. You've got to make yourself available for the ball. I don't care if you're a striker and you want to stay in the box and poach. You still got to make yourself available for the ball. Do you know what was a great example of it? I don't know if any of you seen Ollie Watkins' goal against Liverpool the other day. He had the ball, played the 1-2 outside of the box. And then in the time where the fullbacks took the touch, he got himself onto the 6-yard line to score an header. Like, that's what you've got to do. There's no harm in coming out and playing a bit of football. You can't just expect the ball to come to you. You're playing for Man United. You're meant to be a footballer, mate. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what he's like? He's like, what's that table game called where you play as a still and you just whack them like that? That's all he's doing. He's just standing there waiting for. Yeah, he's just standing there waiting for the ball to come to him.
Yeah, I honestly, I think a lot of supporters will have watched it. You're not being reactionary to one game. This has come over time, but you work rate. You know, like you say,
it's falling off now as well. Yeah. The work rate's going downhill.
The excuses are starting to go, yeah. And suddenly, I mean, you think of past great players at this club. I mean, in that sort of area, even if you think of Cavani, Carlos Tevez, Ruud van Nistelrooy, you know, really, really good strikers at this club, Van Persie, Andy Cole, these players, their movement was absolutely spot on. And it's anticipating, you know, I think the argument now has gone of that he's not getting the service because, like I say, I think you can get more involved in the game, but at the same time, he's doing himself no favours.
He's just so easy to nick the ball off. And as well, even when he tries to get...
And he's a big lad as well, you know,
And he's had plenty of time.
Even when he tries to get to the ball, like I seen today, like, he went for the ball that was just played into his feet, and all the defender had to do was nudge him, and he literally went flying just across the pitch.
And that's why it's basics, isn't it?
But he shouldn't be because he's a big physical. Like he's
quick.
But it's intelligence, isn't it? He's not got the intelligence. Yeah. You made a great point before when you compared him to Martial. When we signed Martial, 18 years old, so he's actually younger than Højlund was when we signed him. You know, there was no waiting round for Martial, was there? When Martial signed for United, that was what Martial was. He was basically. He was that type of player his entire United career went from the minute we got him. Højlund must have played over 50 Premier League games for United now. It's like he must have played somewhere in the region of 50 Premier League games. He's probably not far off 100 appearances total for the club. And you're telling me you know, he's got to have improved more in 100 games. I get the whole thing of, you know, settling in, young player, got to get used to the intensity of the league and whatnot. But he's had enough time for me. I think he's had enough time. I think they've got to go and sign a striker in summer. Højlund's got to be a bench player. And then even then, if he's not cutting it next season off the bench, I'd be looking at moving him out on loan.
The hold-up play thing is absolutely huge, especially in today's game when you got a target man, but somebody who's playing that role, especially in this system as well. You know, to give yourself a breather today. How many times, you know, if the ball did stick with Højlund and I think he might have done it once. I remember where he kind of held it up and he just allowed the team to move up the pitch. But once that ball doesn't stick, you literally, what's the point?
Look, if you're good enough, you're old enough. Look at Dorgu at 20 coming in, and he looks good enough already. Yeah. I mean, it's only early days, but I'm no longer buying the age excuse. I'm no longer buying the inexperience excuse. I'm no longer buying the no service excuse. You've got to do better as a number 9 for Manchester United. I do feel like, you know, buying him for the price that we did, putting all that pressure on him to be the 9 at his stage in his development was. It's United's fault for putting too much into him and expecting more from him than what he was capable of. He should have been brought in as the striker that was going to, you know, be learning on the sidelines and having like 10 minutes here,
there should have been 2 guys ahead of him,
or even put on loan. Yeah. But we bought him and then gave him the number 9 to be the main striker and even giving him the 9 shirt, he didn't show enough last season. For that to happen, and I feel like Manchester United wanted it to happen more than it was actually maybe the proof was in the pudding. Even Ten Hag was benching him towards the end of the season. He was playing Bruno false 9 every game. But then we give Rasmus Højlund the 9 and put the confidence into him. I get that, but he's just not good enough to be starting as Manchester United's number 9. And I think he's at that stage in the development where he needed a loan, he needed time, he needed an experienced striker ahead of him, and we've just not been able to give him that. And honestly, I mean, Cheeto wasn't exactly, you know, prime R9 or anything, but he did offer a bit more in the cameo he did have. So let's just wait and see on that and see how it progresses. But I think Ruben Amorim will be absolutely desperate to get a striker in the summer. Desperate. Probably as desperate to get in a goalkeeper, would you say, guys?
Yeah, I mean, I said this a few weeks ago. I'm done with Onana. I really. Last week, some people thought I was a bit critical of the fact, but I kind of look at it and I think I've always said Onana's like main weakness is shot stopping, and I can't even get into my head what that actually means. It's like, isn't it? Because it's
I'm going to keep his weakness be shot stopping.
Yeah, it's like having a striker whose weakness is scoring goals.
Well, how we have got that, to be fair, as well.
But how have we got? Yeah, we've got both, haven't we? How have we got a goalkeeper whose weakness is shot stopping? And last week, people said I was a bit overcritical of the save that he made, but it's the areas that he punches the ball out into, and I think. Surely as a goal, I'm not a goalkeeper, I never have been, but surely it's to push it away from the danger area. Like today, I'm sure some people will say, oh, it was a good save, you know, in the lead up to the goal, but I'm thinking, what's he pushing it out there for? And listen, I think he was solely responsible for United exiting the Champions League. I thought the kind of mistakes that he made, I thought if he can eradicate that, but it happens too frequently. I know David De Gea made mistakes and that, but it wasn't on this level. And again, that breeds from the back. He's, you know, looking ahead of this pitch, and I think once you've got that shaky keeper in net, I think it just breeds into the back three. You know, I think breeds into everyone from the back.
His distribution hasn't even been good either, which is why we brought him in.
We've lost that now as well.
It's frustrating. I mean, it feels like he's allergic to parrying it out of play. Like, parrying it back into the danger zone every time he's going to cost you. But we were saying in the game, I think Ruben Amorim he's another one. You've had more than enough time now to adapt and step up, and it's just not happening. He's another one where I think Ruben Amorim, as soon as he gets the chance to get a new keeper in, he will be doing it. And I think the keeper market is one where you should be able to get a decent enough keeper on the cheap with the right scouting. So let's see how we move there. I mean, got some super chats in. Darren Mulaney says both strikers need to watch videos of past United strikers to learn. On that, and we have Keil Robinson saying Højlund was Atalanta bench development. Elsky says Højlund is part of the reason that we play with fear. Kawika says, sad to say, but sell Bruno and Garnacho, bring in Ederson and Cunha. And couple more super chats coming in from United saying, how did MEN give De Ligt a 2 and Harry a 4? We've already discussed that. Thank you. Addy says Bruno is like that toxic boyfriend who shows they care once in a while and then wins you back. I wanted to quickly ask about Joshua Zirkzee. A lot of mixed opinions on him in that number 10 role again. Is there something in him that you can see, you know what, there's a bit of potential there? So, Kev?
I was going to say, I don't, he's not a world beater. I don't think he's a great footballer. If I'm being totally honest, for the money that we spent on him, I questioned it when he first come in. I just think that in that area of the pitch, I think that Højlund's been that bad that anything that Zirkzee does, and I'm talking just a simple pass, holding up the ball, spinning, driving with the ball, I think I kind of make my judgment against Højlund because I kind of have him down as this kind of striker or somebody that can get goals. Saying that, I think it's definitely refreshing that we've got somebody in that team that can do that. He's something different, but long term, I'm not sure in this system whether Amorim, you know, it's such a specialist area. I don't know whether he is the answer.
I think from the games we've seen in so far of Amorim being in charge, I think he's more suited to that 10 than in the 9.
Yeah.
I think the big problem, like we said with the 9, the running, not enough movement into the space. Zirkzee doesn't give you that either. You know what I mean? Zirkzee wants the ball to feet, so I don't think you'd see a better United by putting Zirkzee in the 9. I don't think he'd do a much better job than Højlund in the 9. I don't think he'd get as many more goals. However, he's a better footballer than Højlund, and you can't debate it. I guarantee you...
It's not really saying much, though,
it's not saying, it's not, but I guarantee you the players find it much easier to play with Zirkzee than they do to play with Højlund.
Yeah. And
you've got to have more of those players on the pitch if you can. So I think right now, Zirkzee will probably hold that spot right now where he's playing in the right 10. However... You know, as soon as Ahmad comes back, he's not going to be starting, is he?
He brings others into play, doesn't he? And that's the one thing we've kind of waxed lyrical about, is that at least Zirkzee, whether it's Ahmad when he was playing or whoever it is, Garnacho, he is able to spin, turn, and he will play a pass. But I don't think he's ever going to be
And something I'll quickly just give him. You know, against Spurs, I thought he gave a little bit in terms of attitude and gave it a bit of. And today he did the same. He gave it a little bit. He was giving it for the goal when the first goal went in, and I respect that. We need to see that. You know what I mean? We need everybody to be doing that. So right now, I think he's got to start, hasn't he?
Do you know what Zirkzee is for me? I was kind of giving up on him a bit ago, but don't get me wrong. He's not exactly a world beater. But I think he is a player that would thrive so much more once this system is fully up and running and you've got players around him that have better technical ability. I think technically he's really good on the ball. He's still got a lot of work to do, but I do think there is a player in there. He's a good footballer.
I think there's something in there.
He's a good footballer, and I actually think as a squad player he could make it. I do.
I think he's got more chance than Højlund.
I think as a squad player, he could make it. I'm not saying he's going to be a starting 10, but I think he's got potential in that role to be a squad player, especially if you've got players around him, if you've got wing backs. He's playing on the side with Dallo. If he's playing with a Dorgu right, say if a Dorgu was on that right with Zirkzee,
overlapping,
I think you'd see him more being able to thread that pass through.
And then a proper striker ahead of him as well.
Yeah, the ball does stick to him. I think with a proper striker ahead of him, I think with a proper right wing back running off him, I think there really is potential there with him, going to be honest.
I agree with you. I think if he had, when he's got the ball in that area, I think if he had a striker in front of him who can pull off a defender and move wide, then I think he'd add goals in as well. I think if he was playing with a proper striker who could play football, then you'd also see Zirkzee add goals in too. So I like him at the moment. Like I said, I don't think he's a 9. But I think you can kind of get him to work somewhat in this system as that kind of 10 because he does get stuck in the midfield a little bit, especially what he has done in the last 2 games especially.
And then Cassie Garte didn't work, did it, guys?
Not really.
I mean, I wanted to see that, to be honest. I'll hold my hands up. I said I thought it would make us a lot more solid, but it just didn't. I don't think Casemiro played well at all, and he's another player that's lacking that intensity that is needed and the technical ability that's needed in an Amorim system, and you could kind of see why Ruben Amorim wasn't playing him often. But the one thing I would say, is that you can't just pin it all on one player. We need better all across the pitch. But the game did change.
We got totally overrun in the first half, didn't we? I mean, midfield-wise, we were looking forward to Casemiro. Well, shout out Ugarte as well, first United goal today. Took it really well.
Fantastic.
And considering he's just come back from injury, you know, you were thinking, is he been thrust into the team a bit quickly? But it's no coincidence, is it, that the two players, the one that he's bought, Dorgu, you know, seems to fit this system like a glove, doesn't look in any way or shape out of place in this system or at United at this minute. And Ugarte, who he's previously managed, you know, that fits the system and actually knows how to play it. It's up to the rest, you know, are they willing for the fight? Do they want to get involved? If not, see you later.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Ugarte was absolutely fantastic today, and I think that will bring us on to who are our man of the matches. I mean, Tull, who are you going for your man of the match? And it has to be for United. I know it's tough because we didn't play
James
well.
Garner, no. I'd probably go Ugarte. Took the goal well, and there wasn't many parts of the game where he looked flustered or out of position. Then again, it wasn't really a spectacular Ugarte performance, was it? It was just a bog standard average Ugarte performance, which
did well at breaking up play,
probably speaks volumes as to, you know, how bad the other players were.
I was gonna agree with that, but I think I'll be different. And considering he's not been at United that long, I'm going to say Dorgu.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout.
I think he was a good threat down that left-hand side. And even in the whatever, you know, late on in that game, I'm still looking at him and thinking, he's got some engine on him, this kid.
I'd change my mind on Dorgu. Yeah, I'd change my mind on Dorgu. Yeah, because you know what? I'm a hypocrite if I give it Ugarte, because 70 minutes of the game we did get overrun. But Dorgu had his side nailed down, didn't it? So it's got to be Dorgu, hasn't it?
Good salesman, me.
Yeah, it's got to be.
Sold.
I was going to give it Ugarte, and then you kind of brought in that Dorgu point. That's actually really true, but I'll give it Ugarte still. I just think Ugarte he's someone who is an example of what everybody else should be like. Tidy, you know, does his job well, does the basics well, hungry, good energy levels, good intensity, and is hard. Do you know what I mean?
It's that South American shithousery. I love that.
He gives a bit,
That's what I mean. And, you know, he's someone who's going to stand up, and fair play to his goal. It was a fantastic goal. So I'm going to give it to Ugarte there. It was the equaliser, wasn't it? So I'll give it to him. And I think we can all agree the magic moment was probably Bruno's free kick to spark us back into life.
Yeah, it's probably got to be, hasn't it? Yeah.
And the VAR sorting us out, to be fair. I mean, on that one, thank you, Ashley Young, for making a meal out of it, because if he didn't kind of put on a diving performance, I think that could have been a pen. That kind of went in our favour, didn't it?
I think that's what it's definitely gone against him. And I said to you earlier, we should be used to this as United fans. If you watched Ashley Young play for United under Sir Alex Ferguson,
this is something
Sir Alex Ferguson had to stamp out, and it was embarrassing. It got to a stage where he used to knock the ball and he dived. There was no, and that was obviously before VAR. But for me, you reap what you sow. His reputation's gone before him. Whether there's a shirt pull or whatever, it is not enough for a man in his late 30s to throw his arse up in the air and dive like Tom Daley. There was no need for it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I found interesting. The statement that the Premier League put out about the VAR decision said, after review, they determined that it wasn't a foul by Maguire on Ashley Young. However, I thought they would have been looking at De Ligt.
Yeah, you were focusing on that, weren't you?
I thought the thing they were looking at was De Ligt pulling his shirt.
It's because Ashley Young did the dive on the Maguire one. He did it wrong.
There's a slight touch on the waist, but like I say, not enough to throw a fully grown man or make him as if he's like just been electrocuted, you know, and like jump. Like it wasn't enough.
Well, anyway, guys, we'll go and enjoy the rest of our Saturdays. We've got a point out of it, and I think it's more than quite a few expected. The relegation battle goes on with Ipswich on Wednesday, and we'll see how that goes. Also, a lot of people saying Aaron Bissaka is balling out right now for West Ham, who are currently beating Arsenal. So we'll see how the rest of the games go today.
That's not good news for us, by the way. Could that put us 16th?
Yes. Apparently no, because their goal difference is terrible. But anyway, let's wrap up and let's go and watch the rest of the football. Thank you everyone for watching. Thank you Kev and Tull as well.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back on Wednesday midweek for the Ipswich game at Old Trafford. There will be more news shows coming before then though, so stay tuned. Any news on the United Stand will be brought to you, and the usual shows as well. Thank you for watching everyone. We will see you on the next one.